inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher, unlock the fire in you, cause real women don't bitch, no, real women don't, 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 real women don't bitch.
Hey, thank you for joining me on the Real Women Don't Bitch podcast. This is your proud host, August Crenshaw, aka Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. I am the #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs because building mental muscle is necessary in order to implement successful business strategies. This show has been created for the woman who is not excuse-driven and needs help building a profitable business. I will be interviewing women from various fields who are willing to break the silence on struggles that specifically affect female entrepreneurs. Welcome to a show where I and guest speakers from time to time share our methods that help us beast our business no matter what is going on in our lives. Whether you are an online or brick and mortar business owner, this show is for you. We will hit every angle, personal, professional, and spiritual. Why? Because on any given day, you get hit with shit from a scenario involving one, more, or perhaps all of the above. It all impacts you and your mindset towards your business. I have made it my personal mission to provide a space where we dive deep into the BS we face on a day-to-day basis. All right. Woo-hoo. What's up, ladies? All right, now, y'all know how I am about introducing my guests, and I hope I can make this man blush. Oops.
I'm already blushing.
Man, let me tell you something. First of all, this episode is going down in history. I'm going to say his name already, Brother Bedford, because you're the first man on the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I actually had a gentleman reach out to me with so much fervor. He was like, I listened to your podcast. I want to do this. And he went through the whole entire application process. But when he was supposed to set his connection call, it fell flat. And it was so potent that I actually reached back out to him. I don't usually reach back out to people because, you know, the podcasting game, look, if you want it, you go after it, you know, to get on someone's platform. But he didn't come through. But you're here. And I know you. You guys, I met Brother Bedford from listening to a telesummit. I listened to him on the telesummit. I reached out to this man to have a conversation with him because he had his opt-in. And I had some questions. Before I know it, we had us about basically a coaching session. You know, you sat down and you talked to me, and I didn't realize how raw I was, you know, when I met you, and just how I was very dedicated. I had written books. I remember you going through my website, looking at what I had did. You were like, hey, who taught you how to do these things? You've done more than the average person that comes to me. You like, don't stop. But you started asking me questions that I couldn't answer. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't even know if I'm doing exactly what I want to do because I didn't realize I was basically branding myself as a relationship coach. I thought I was just giving life coaching information. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just brave enough to jump. But that first conversation with you was so instrumental. I still can't really articulate to you the level of direction that it gave me. It made me step back for 2 seconds, get some clarity, and then come back out with a lot more focus. And so when I finally got a chance to meet you last year, y'all, your girl ain't ashamed of nothing. He was looking at me like, why is she crying? I'm like, I finally get to meet you, Brother Bedford. And then from there, I actually took the opportunity to work in one of your marketing group programs. And I'm pretty proud of the fact that I believe that I'm clear with my messaging and saying what I have to say. And I experienced so many epiphanies and explosions even in that process. But what impressed me even more than your knowledge was that this is, you guys already know this is not about, you know, measuring and yardsticking, but I serve a lot and I give a lot because my passion really is in helping the people. And in the coaching industry, I hadn't seen it from a man yet. And working with you, I was like, this dude in here is serving. Like, this ain't normal. When he say he really cares about the people, He cares about the people. So when I asked you if you would come on the podcast, you need to know that this with a whole lot of honor. So you guys that's out there listening, say hi to Brother Bedford.
Well, you know what, sis? Thank you so much. This is long overdue, and I'm honored. Your words are taken with the utmost humility. I appreciate that. But you've been such a magnetic person, right? You're the type of person that it's easy to serve because you want what it is that you're going after. Most people have these general ideas of what it is that they want to do and what they want to accomplish. And as Les Brown like to say, they're not hungry, right? So with you, right, I saw the hunger. I saw the thirst for whatever it is that I could share. I mean, I don't know the magnitude of what I could have shared or still could share with you to kind of help you in your growth and development of your business. All I knew is that whatever I had, I wanted to share with you, and you were receptive to it. So thank you for that. And to be the first male, you know, I'm really, now I'm nervous.
You make me nervous, man. You got this. You do this. Tell the people a little bit about you, because you are a firm believer in podcasting. I mean, we're really not plugging, but you know, go ahead and tell the people about you and the podcast that you have as well, because this is what you do, and you're a very strong proponent for entrepreneurs to establish their own platforms.
Right. No, so, and thank you for that. And it's interesting because I initially, when I started, I tell the story of my history of, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much all my life. I think I've only held maybe 3 to 4 jobs. None of them lasted longer than a summer or something like that. Because at the root of who I am, I was in the entertainment field as a performer first. You know, many people say Bobby Brown stole my style, so I don't know if that's true or not. But that's my background in the music industry, first performing and then getting into the business side by promoting concerts and things like that. And that's how it started. And I saw the money, the business side of it. So that piqued my interest. There was the entertainment side, which is good. That's fun, had a whole lot of fun. But then when I started to expand my entertainment by actually booking myself, you know, I got into promotions and I would book someone like, let's see, Joe, when he first came out, Jodeci. I've been blessed to share the platform with a lot of people. We would book them. And then I would put myself on the show as an opening act. So that helped to grow my brand. But then I also saw the numbers, you know, when you can look up in the rafters. Most people don't know this. When you go to concerts, the profit is in the upper bowl, right? You can see a lot of people on the lower bowl or the mezzanine, and they partying and they rocking out, but the promoter is in the back biting his nails because he knows that that's just breaking even. His money is when those upper bowl seats are filled. So when I first brought Cedric the Entertainer to Detroit, Cedric the Entertainer, Michael Collier was on that show, and who else did I have? Teddy Carpenter, and he was right off of Def Jam, and they were very hot, and everybody enjoyed it. It's like, Brother B, you the man, but I lost money because those upper seats were not filled. And I also learned about competition. The promoter of the Def Jam actually had the Def Jam come 2 weeks before my concert. And then he also booked Eddie Griffin 2 weeks after my concert.
Gotcha.
So I was sandwiched between these 2 big comedy shows with my comedy show. So I wasn't able to maximize. And I say that to a lot of you, hoping that you understand that there's a lesson in that, and just understanding the numbers of your business and the market dynamics. And so that's where my thirst, my hunger came from. And so from that point forward, people started telling me, well, if you're serious about being in entrepreneurship, you should study real estate. So I started studying real estate, started following a particular guru, started making money, flipping ugly houses. One day I'll come back on and tell you the story about that, on how I got the first check, and I was so nervous I didn't even cash it almost like 3 months. I mean, I cashed the check, but I hid the cash in the mattress because I was afraid that the police or somebody was going to come take that money, because it couldn't be that easy, right? I said, this can't be this. To make, I believe that first deal was $6,000 that I made. And from that point forward, I started studying that guru. And that guru invited me to Orlando, Florida for a conference that literally had nothing to do with real estate. It had two primary objectives. One was to learn how to take your knowledge, your experience, your expertise, or your passions, and learn to package them into what we call today, you know, online courses and things like that. But then it was just called information products. The internet was just really getting started, but it was home study courses, boot camps, all of these types of things, where the cassette tapes would come to your house. Or that's how I'm dating myself right now as to how I got started in this. So that was the first objective. But the second objective was learning marketing. And that's kind of what you and I kind of connected on, this whole marketing piece, this marketing dynamic. And so from that point forward, that guru admitted on that stage that he made more money by selling the home study courses than he did by investing in real estate at that time. That intrigued me. I purchased the license to that course, brought that course home, literally followed everything to the T, and sold my first. I had to, actually, it was 816 cassette tapes, 2 manuals around that thick. So I had to go to Kinko's, print out the manuals, had to duplicate the cassettes over to the other cassette player. So that was the first thing. I ran an article, an ad in the paper to sell this course. And that course ended up making me about $900 back in the first week. So I'd made my money back from the licensings that I purchased that course, but I studied inside that course. And this is, now I'm getting to the direct answer of your question, is that there was one tape in that course that started talking about the internet. It was 16 cassettes and it was just talking about information marketing and marketing. But there was tape number 7, I'll never forget it. Tape number 7 talked about the internet. That intrigued me. And so that's when I started learning this space that we're in now. And this was years ago. And so now I said, I'm going to study this piece. I started building an e-zine, an online newsletter that you see today, but it wasn't all of this. You could just purchase the software. We had to build it with HTML code and all of that type of stuff. Started building my list. People were asking me about real estate questions. I started thinking about answering them. So I said, let me try it. I started answering those questions. And then I said, I'm going to follow this tape. This tape said, create a report and sell it. And so I took that knowledge that I had from real estate investing, put it into a small report. It was around 11 pages. Could have just been 2 pages, but I white space, did all of the things to try to make it create value. Put a price tag on my mind. PayPal was just coming out. Charged $7 for the course. For the report, excuse me. Just sent it out to my email list that I'd built up to around 500 people up until that point, around 500 people. Sent it out. Didn't even want to look at it. Next morning, got up, avoided my computer. I didn't want to look at it because I didn't think this stuff would work. Now I'm nervous. And then that's when it started. I opened up the computer and I looked. The email was very short. You all been asking me about how I make money flipping these nasty, stinking, ugly houses from the real estate space. That was the title of the report, how to make $2,000 a month flipping nasty, stinking, ugly houses. That was the name of that report. Put a $7 price tag on it, didn't build a web page to sell it or anything, just put my PayPal link in it, sent it out. The following day, I opened up the computer and that's when it really started clicking for me. That's when I started seeing notification of payment received, notification of payment received, and I thought it was tripping. I refreshed the screen to make sure that nothing was broken and they were still there. Notification of payment received, notification of payment received. And I was hooked. So I started selling reports. I was reading another book at that time called Conversations with Millionaires. And it only had one Black person in that book. And that was Wallace Famous Amos from Famous Amos Cookies. Okay. I said, no. So that's when the idea hit. Man, what if somebody from our community, because my first site was called howtobea.blackentrepreneur.com. I said, what if somebody was to interview Black millionaires and put that into an ebook? Because now I'm learning this whole ebook thing. And when I say ebook, this was before Amazon. So we're talking about just really a PDF file that we were selling. Yeah, this wasn't, you can go to Amazon and put your book up. You couldn't do that. So I said, man, wouldn't it be nice if somebody interviewed Black millionaires and put it into a book? And that's how I was born. And I started calling and interviewing. My first interview was George Frazier, who's now a mentor and a dear friend, but at that time, he was the first person I called. His assistant said he wouldn't do it. He said yes. He called me. We did that interview for about an hour and 45 minutes. The next person I called was Les Brown. Les Brown said yes. Then it was Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. Then the great Kathy Hughes. Randall Pinkett had just won The Apprentice with Donald Trump and told him to go to us. I got to interview that brother. So I interviewed him, Mike Roberts, Lisa Nichols. But here's the thing, and this goes to your point about the podcast. And I think this is a great lesson about multi-purposing your content for the people who are listening. You know, you don't have to create a whole bunch of different things. You can take one solid piece of content and learn how to multi-purpose it and really make a mint. And so that's what happened. So now I did these interviews. I took the first 9, transcribed them, began to sell the ebook. We released a press release. And that press release, the headline was, "Budding Entrepreneur Seeks Millionaire Advice and Gets It." That press release was distributed. Then I started getting all of these requests. You know, you and I were talking before we got on about things start happening. You start getting requests. I started getting requests from syndicated radio, XM radio, Sirius. They were hot at that time. People started requesting me regionally. Then Warren Ballantyne, he was hot. His show called me, and then I was on his show. And then as I was going on there, and they would just ask me questions. Well, what did these millionaires talk to you about? And I would just say, well, George taught me this, or Kathy Hughes said this. And then at the end of it, they would ask, okay, well, how can people get this book or this ebook? And I said, all I got to do is go to conversationswithblackmillionaires.com. And I mean, literally thousands of downloads. That's how it started. And I was hooked. But now here's where this got real great. Those same interviews that I recorded, now I turned them into the podcast.
Yeah.
And so we turned the same interviews that were a book that made hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now I can take those very same interviews and turn them into the podcast. And it shot up the charts. Even to this day, I still get thousands of downloads every week from people finding Conversations with Black Millionaires on iTunes and places like that. So it's an excellent lead generator. But when you say the platform, look at what ended up happening. So when people are tuning in to hear George Frazier, they're hearing me. So my profile began to rise. And obviously, here's the other thing that's happening. As I'm communicating and having these interviews with George and Les Brown, they're saying great things about me. And so now as they're talking about me, the people who are listening are beginning to say, well, man, who is this Brother Bedford guy?
Right.
And then they start saying, well, how he got the juice to get on these millionaires? Who is this dude that he can make calls and he's talking to millionaires? And these are not, there's no big secret. Once you start landing the big, I call them the big fish, or the whales, as some people would say, you catch a whale. Because that's what ended up happening with some of the latter ones. They were Les Brown's people. Well, who have you interviewed? So, well, I've interviewed George Frazier, Les Brown. So of course they're like, oh, no problem. Now I don't interview Willie Jolly, everybody. Not too many people have told me no. And to this day, and Tyler Perry was to call right now, I'm gonna get off of here and go get that interview.
Right.
But he's been so busy. But once you do things like this, as you mentioned, the platform, going back to the original point about the podcasting and having your own platform. And now when you do this, you're talking about going from doing something locally to now having an international audience that could find you. And all it takes is for you to do a few tweaks, a few smart things to begin to have people coming to you. And now your content going viral. So I know that was a long way.
Oh, no, this was a good
get to your answer to your question. But I wanted to give a backdrop that it didn't start out. That wasn't my intention, but it ended up being the platform that now the rest of my business is built on.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, anybody that's listening right now should be like, man, okay, I see exactly what August is talking about. Because, of course, maybe some people don't necessarily have the quote unquote know-how, but you literally just dripped the entire process. You gave the juice. For, there are some people out there that only need a little bit of information, like, that's what I was missing. I can put that little thing that I was in, go, and they can just go. And there's so much in what you said that I want to respond to a couple of things. Number one, without staying there too long, because my audience knows that I'm really big on this. You said study the competition. And there's a statement that's been, it's out there with the women entrepreneurs that is been taken out of context. And it's that real women don't compete, they collaborate. And I have to have conversations with women all the time when I work with them, because if I ask, who's your competition? And I don't compete against anybody but myself. And it's like, okay, all of that stuff is cute. But if you don't know what's going on in the marketplace, I'll drop a big name because I do a lot with selling. If I drop a course at the same time that Lisa Sasevich is dropping a course, then that might suck up a lot of the money that I could be making. Because she calls herself the conversion queen, the sales queen, stuff like that. And so not knowing what somebody else is doing out there in the marketplace, you're messing yourself up. Plus, you can't have blinders on. You want to be authentic. You want to show who you are. But sometimes you may realize that they're doing something that's a little bit different or a little bit innovative. And then you get your research on, because, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we don't necessarily make time to research. So we're not really paying attention to different trends that we need to get on. Not so much. I'm not talking about riding a trend that's going to come and fade, but when there's transitions, in the marketplace and stuff like that. So here's a very successful gentleman that's sitting here telling you guys, understand what's going on with your competition. The other thing is I find that a lot of women, they're not very productive. They don't really spend a lot of time doing money-making activities. They'll say that it's money-making activities, but really all they're doing is sitting in a lab all day trying to figure out how to create content. I have, I'll talk to my clients and I'm like, look, if I teach you how to create this one thing, if you go and say that on a live video and you make a post out of there, you can even pull a little mini post out of there. Just take that one thing you said and flip it around and make it a question to create some engagement, to just get some traffic to your page, see who's kind of paying attention to what you're talking about. There's like one thing that you could do that can continue to build on the other things. But women will be, I'll be like, what did you do? What did you accomplish this week? From the last time that we talked, oh yeah, I've just been really going in, with my content and trying to do this. It's like, it's not that difficult. And you talking and saying the things that you were saying, most of the people know the birth of this podcast, but a lot of people don't. So let's rewind back. When I did my first summit, the Business Mastery Summit, I noticed that there was a deficit, because even though women were getting the technical, practical tools for business, they had a lot of emotional damage and they still weren't moving forward. Me, I was like, ooh, create a summit really fast again. So I came out at the second summit like 60 days later. And because it was a personal summit, I sold tickets on the front end. You was no get free access and then buy the recordings. And the justification was because the women, you needed to be vested to hear these stories of trauma. But after hearing that, I'm like, man, this is really good, and I took all of those stories, changed the names around and transcribed those and wrote the book, Don't Bitch About It, Be About It. But now I was like, wait a minute. But this is still needed. And so basically the majority of all of the podcasts I ever did, they came from all of those interviews. The difference with yours, instead of putting the people's interviews out there because the voices would be heard, the information would be heard, I started talking about the problems and struggles that the women in business were dealing with. But all of that came from that. So you got summit to book to podcast, and just that straight streamline. And so when a lot of people will see, like the way that I'm working or the things that I'm producing, they'll be like, okay, well, does August ever sleep? Yes and no. But it's about working smart, not working hard. And so I get that, I see that, and I encourage people to do that. And I thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people should have really gathered. It should make you go back and have a little bit of time of reflection. Are you optimizing and making the most of your time? So that was just my response to that. But if you don't mind, maybe let's talk about you and your strong stance on entrepreneurs building their own platform, and what does that mean, and why do you say that?
Well, beautiful question. And I concur with everything that you just said about the struggles. I think one of the challenges, and this is really one of the reasons why I love you and support you with what you do, is that the misinformation that's directed first to entrepreneurship in general, but then in particular to women, it's terrible. And so for you to take the stance and do what you do to help women see the realities of business, I think that is critical, because it's not that when people start businesses, they fail because of an inferior product or an inferior service or a market's desire for that product or service. That's not the case. It's most entrepreneurs do not understand the realities of business that you're trying to point out, that you and I focus on putting the magnifying glass on. Now, here's the problem with that is that that's not sexy. Right? When you start talking about competition and knowing numbers and all, that's not sexy. That's not cute, because this is beyond a photo shoot, right? This is beyond a logo, right? All of these things take you out of the space of what you see on social media. So that's one of the reasons why I love you. And that's why I know that the success that's being birthed from each move that you make, it's not only just the information that you're giving, it's also the example. So I used to say this all the time to people, even in this conversation, this interacting that you and I are going through right now. I would ask and encourage all of the sisters to, yes, listen to what we're saying, but also look at what we're doing. I mean, just look at this entire process, and you and I are giving background as to how we got to this point. So that should let every single one of you know that you can't skip these steps that we talked about, how her summit led to book, then podcast, and how I even talked about my career going to conference, to course, to on. So all of these things are valuable pieces. Some would say like breadcrumbs that people have left for you to follow. So even though we're giving you big picture things, hopefully you can see the roadmap that we're laying for you. And so that's why I love you and the work that you do, and will always support what you do. More directly to the point of why I stand for entrepreneurship, because everybody is born an entrepreneur. I've had this argument with, I don't know, probably 1 million people and advocates on all types of things. But the reality is, prior to a little over 100 years ago, practically everyone on this continent was entrepreneurs. This whole corporate idea came about from people who moved into the industrial age and began to implement the ideas of their business concepts into the educational system. So it became go to school, get good grades so that you can get a job really working for me. And so it killed, and this is just a little over 100 years ago, killed the idea or the thought that I should be doing something for myself. So entrepreneur is just a French word. The black word or the white word or just the common word is do something for yourself. That's really all that is.
Hello.
That's all, just so that we can say entrepreneur is a French term. And if we want to be all sophisticated, we can get into that. But an entrepreneur is simply one who has decided to do something for him or herself. And that is something that we're all born with. And so I stand on that and I preach that, because if you are sitting waiting, and this doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't get a job or want to work with people or collaborate. The key is having the entrepreneurial mindset that even if you're working with someone or partnering with someone or even working for someone, the way that you approach that job now is completely different. Yeah. You approach it similar to how we watch the sports world today. You approach it as like a free agent, right? You go in knowing who you are, what's your skill set, what value do you bring to the table. So therefore, no one can tell you, I'm only going to give you $7 an hour. If you know that you're worth more than that, so now you begin to package yourself, you'll position yourself to go in as a free agent or an independent contractor, so that you begin to maximize your income opportunities. That's really all it's about. So that's why I stand for that. And when we start talking about packaging, that goes back to the platform. There's a lot of you who are listening. If you're on a job, I want you to just think about it. How much value could you bring to your job if you just had a podcast? If you were one who was considered an authority or an expert in your space, how much more valuable now do you become to whoever's thinking about hiring you? If you're, again, this is if your mind can't stretch beyond, okay, I need a job, I need the steady paycheck. I got you. Okay, so even if you need that, how much more value would you bring to the table if you are an author? if you are a host of a podcast, if you created a product or a service, that even if you didn't sell gobs of them, right? The view, the vantage point of which people see you now is different because it takes energy, effort, discipline to write a book, to host a podcast. Most people looking at you and I now, and here's what'll happen. Someone will say, wow, they did that. I can do that. But we gave you something to let you know there's years behind this, right? This just didn't pop up yesterday. I've been doing this thing for years. Now it's been very fruitful, but as you alluded to earlier, there are many ups and downs. And so I'll close on that point by saying this. I think the thing that really hurts, and this goes back to your earlier point as well, is that we look at entrepreneurship or business and life as these two separate entities. And one of the things that the light bulb went off for me was when I heard the statement that the science of business and the science of life is one and the same.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge for most, and if you get nothing else out of what I said, I want you to think about this, that most people think that they want to start a business or get into entrepreneurship to escape whatever's happening in their life. And that's where the problems happen. But if you begin to understand that whatever challenges that you're going through in life, you're going to have those same challenges in business. And so when you understand that, now you approach it, you're not trying to escape. You're really trying to become a master of life, and you're really trying to become a master of your business, because your business is your life and your life is your business. When you begin to understand that concept and not try to escape, if I could just do a business like August or Brother Bedford, then I ain't got to worry about relationships, family, bills. No, that's not the case. I got bills. I still have family. I still have relationships I have to build, right? It's just on a different level, and they work in concert. So I think that if you get nothing else, sisters, if you do not look at trying to start a business or anything to escape what you already know, because the principles, the challenges that you're going through, that you've overcome, heartache, hardships, those are the same emotional tools, psychological tools, and even business tools that you need to get into business. I don't know why people think that it's something totally different, and that's why they mess up. It's like, I have this over here, and now I got to go learn this whole new reality. That's not true. It's the same. There are business principles, but there's some things that are congruent. So I hope that helps.
Absolutely. Woo, y'all, I like it when he says something that I've been trying to tell y'all. Who you are personally and professionally is the same thing. And that's the bump against the head that most people have to deal with when it comes to building a business. And I see it all the time, when I'm coaching women, and it's like, what I've noticed is almost, and that's not to say that men don't do it too, but of course I'm speaking from, my demographic, is that it's almost as if a person builds a business so that they can have something to hide behind to say that now that I have something. So, correct. but you can't do that.
Correct.
Because I know that whenever I talk to a woman and I'm like, oh, okay, so what do you want to do with your business? How do you want to make money? What is this product you want to create? It's as if they want to. They believe that the information age, the technological age, means that, oh, Brother Bedford said you should write a book. I'm going to write a book and I'm going to put it out there. And then the book is going to make my business be what it's going to become. And that's that separate entity thing. It's like, if I could just do something with my business that would make me some money, then I'll start making some money so I don't have to deal with this crap. But you are, whether you're a personal brand or not, it is still your energy, and it's still your presence that goes into that. And so if you have issues with actually being authentic, showing up and being yourself, if you're not a confident person, that confidence is needed in order to be able to push that product. You have to be able to put yourself out there. I mean, this is just very low level conversation, but that's something that's very simple that would kill a person's ability to be able to get out there and build a business. If you don't like communicating with people, you argue with your spouse all the time, you seem like you can never have a reasonable conversation with someone in a relationship, even if it's not marital, then all of a sudden you want to build a business and you want it to be successful, but you need a team. You need people working with you to take on, whether that's an independent contractor for a season or somebody that you need to stay with you and build and grow and expand with you. You will not be able to keep anybody on board because your communication skills are poor. It's you. Ladies, whatever it is that you're doing, all of it is just you. And so the way that you excel in business is by having these moments of saying, you know what, this is showing me who I am. It's showing me what I'm great at. It's showing me what I'm not great at. And that doesn't mean that you're supposed to beat yourself up. That means that shows you that that's where relationship opportunities are at.
Absolutely.
You know, if I'm not good at something, then that means that I need to be friends with someone and develop a relationship with someone that is good at it. Because no matter how great some of us may be at a lot of things, none of us are great at everything.
Correct.
And I just know that with a lot of women, what I've seen happen, and this will be interesting. I'd love to hear your response to this. I remember, and it's not just her, but there's just one client in particular that always sticks out in my head. We had just started working together, and she was like, yeah, you know, I actually have you and I have another coach because, you know, it takes a village, you know, to raise a baby. And, you know, so I'm doing that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I didn't really know that much about the other woman. And so I'm going through and I'm starting at ground floor. You know, who are you talking to? Who are you? She's like, yeah, you know, I'm talking to these people. I'm like, okay, but that's just such a vast, broad audience. You know, if your audience is that broad, then what are you doing over here? Because you say your other coach has you creating a signature course. And
Right.
like, yeah, no. You know, because I'm all about getting that passive income. And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. Will anybody opt in for your freebie? Can you get somebody to sign up for, you know, a $27 offer, a low barrier of entry cost offer? You know, well, no, not yet, but I'm doing this and I got my tribe and I got my group. I'm like, yeah, but you just got a bunch of people that just wanted a place to socialize.
Right.
And so we were having this conversation. And of course, as we went through the relationship, we had to deal with mindset blocks, issues that she was having, why she couldn't show up, confidence and esteem issues. And once she got past all that stuff, she was able to say who she was, have, you know, firm belief in who she was serving, identify who that niche was. We're talking about somebody who could barely sell something that was, you know, $97 to then saying, oh, if you want this from me, it costs $2,000. And somebody being like, just give me the PayPal link. It was like literally that serious. And so I usually have that bump in the road with most clients, because I usually do get people that are closer to the beginning. They're established, but they're still stuck at beginner mode. And it seems like everybody wants to jump to passive income.
Yeah.
Talk to the audience about how you feel about that. Cause you know, hey, you did come out, you know, dropping out your book, your notifications, fave and receive.
Right.
If anybody can tell somebody about the realities of doing this, you can speak to it.
Okay, great. And I love your process with your client. And you're so correct. I don't want to jump off of that too quick. I think that the principles that you share are so important. If you don't have confidence in your personal relationships with your spouse, your children, or friends, how are you going to have confidence in the business environment with people that you don't know? If you can't communicate with your immediate circle, how are you going to communicate the value of your product? That's why I said it's not separate, but for some reason we tend to think these things are separate. So again, that's why I love your approach. It's a reality check for a lot of people because they don't want to hear that. You mean my life is a mess and I can't have business success because my life is a mess? Yeah. That means you got
just keeping it real.
Your business life is a reflection of your personal life, especially if you're driving the brand, as you mentioned, using the personal brand analogy. As it relates to the passive income, wow, the biggest lies, biggest farces that have ever been shared with people are those two things. And I bump heads with some of my mentors who talk about, you know, no person should be in America with only one stream of income. I totally agree. But the multiple streams of income argument is so misused and misplaced, right? And that's what, first, let's look at the word. Do you have a stream coming in? So let's just jump off of business theory and let's make it real. If you were to go out and you were looking at streams of water or rivers flowing, if one stream is blocked, it's not going to produce anything. So now if you're over here, this stream is not coming in. You over here talking about I'm doing multiple streams of income, but this stream is blocked. And the more time you spend scattered trying to build all of these streams of income, the more blockage you're going to have. So the key to that is you have to build a stream and make sure that it is an ever flowing stream, which requires you to have patience and focus to develop that. Here's the second part of that. Your multiple streams of income should not be incongruent. That's the problem. Everybody's talking about here. I'm doing real estate. I sell insurance. I got an online business. You know, I sell T-shirts on the side. That's not multiple streams of income. That just means you're all over the place. Your multiple streams of income should come from this. This is another valuable lesson. If you get this, you're going to thank me in August for the rest of your life. The streams, and going back to, she used my story. I built a hub first. I'm going to try to give you an example. I focused on a hub of a wheel. And then my streams of income began to become like spokes out of the wheel. They were not separate streams all over the place. I built a hub, and then the streams came from that hub. They were congruent. They were not, I didn't build a hub, had one stream, and then I jumped over here and started building another hub. That's the challenge with most people, is that the myth of multiple streams of income is that you have to get them from all of these different sources. I give you the example. We touched on it earlier, but now let's talk about it. I get multiple streams of income from conversations with Black millionaire entrepreneurs.
Right.
It's a book, it's a podcast, it's a course. I speak on it, but it's one hub, right? So I'm getting these streams from this asset that we've created. So if you're jumping around, you're not getting multiple streams. And of course, I know it's tough. This is really the hard part, because everyone is saying it. And then you feel you got to get your hustle on, and you feel that you know that you got to do it. And then even some of you would even say, well, I am making money right here. I got this MLM. But again, that's not a stream of income, because if you stop working on it, would that stream keep coming? No, that means you got to. So you're really I don't want to say wasting, but you're expending a lot of energy to keep these streams up. And that's why it doesn't become passive income. See, that's why I say people use those terms interchangeably, but they're not. Multiple streams of income and passive income. It's only passive income if there's an asset that is producing. This is why real estate is probably what people can recognize that the most from. If you have a piece of property and now you don't have to do any work, and someone is in that property, this is rental property or commercial property, and now they're paying you, that means that you don't have to expend any energy or work or labor to get income from it. That's passive income. That could also happen with your business, but just as that piece of real estate, that commercial property is an asset in and of itself that produces the income, it's the same way with your businesses. You have to produce an asset. And many of you are leaving your business or your products or services before they become an asset. And what happens when you leave it too soon, it becomes a liability, because it starts draining you on your time or resource. Some of you got websites built right now. You're paying hosting services right now, and you're not doing anything. You've already talked about probably clients who paid someone to build a website, lead generation tools, and it's just sitting there. They're not getting any leads, not making any low entry sales or anything, and they think that they're doing something. But yet, if you do the numbers, now we're circling all the way back to what we talked about at the beginning.
Yes.
If you do the numbers, you'll see that, man, I'm spending $150 a month on this, and I'm not getting nothing. So it's not truly an asset. It's not a stream of income. It's not passive income. So we just really have to take a step back and really demystify some of these things, that you should not be focusing on multiple streams of income that are incongruent. They should come from just like what you've done. You've taken one thing and it's become the book. It's become a show. It's becoming a podcast. It's becoming a summit, but it is the exact same asset that is producing those multiple streams. Therefore, you're not all over the place. You're not leaving the stream to go build something else. You can only focus on one business at a time. And I'll close this point on what you started with earlier, and it was the great Kathy Hughes. For any of you who don't know who Kathy Hughes is, she's the founder of Radio One, TV One. You can either find the podcast where I interviewed her, but just go look her up. But when I interviewed her and I asked her, I said, Miss Hughes, what is the first step that an entrepreneur should take if they want to become truly successful? What is it that we should do first? She said, Brother Bedford, the first thing you must do, and you've already touched on this, but I want to say it a different way. She said, you must have clarity first, or nothing else will work. You must know what it is that you want to do, even before you get started. If you have no clarity, you don't know how to qualify or quantify anything else that comes after that. You're just really all over the place. And so this is why I bump heads with my hustle people who are always hustling.
Yeah.
Team no sleep. I'd be like, shh, I'm sleeping. I'm going to sleep. See, if you're going to build a business, why shouldn't you get some rest?
Amen.
Why shouldn't you be able to partake of act like today, this evening? I'm going to catch me a movie by myself. I'm going to Center Bistro, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to get my buffalo wing cauliflower and enjoy a good movie. But I can do that because I'm not frantic to say that I need to hustle.
Yeah.
You must have clarity. I know where my business is going, or at least I know what I want to do with my business. And by knowing what it is that I want to do, and when you and I had our initial conversation, and I think you probably implement this now in your conversations, when I'm talking to potential clients, I don't ask them what you're trying to do right now. I'm like, well, what do you want your business to look like in 5 years? And that's when people can't answer, like, I ain't even thought about 5 years. Well, what about a year? And if you don't have that type of clarity of what you want it to look like and feel like, there's no way that you can reverse engineer that thing to make it happen. You're just talking. So you got to get clarity first.
Man, I'm telling you this. I love it. This is why I love doing the interviews, because I feed off the energy. We're kind of winding up, but I just want to squeeze one more question, if you don't mind, because this is good. This is really, really good. And I'm gonna go ahead and insert my opinion, because there are a lot of thoughts out there about email lists. And so you talking about, I'm from the cassette era too, so we dated together.
Right,
I know a pencil was to, wind it back up.
Right.
When they got high speed dubbing, I was like in the house. So
that's right.
Yeah. But here you are talking about you grew a list and you got these notifications of payment received. And so somebody, we just have these reasons why we judge where we get information from. Oh, he too old school. He ain't up to date. He don't really know, what's going on. And so I hear a lot of people talking about, you don't have to do these things. You don't have to do this. And, email lists. Yeah, I don't have a list. I don't have to have a list. And you know what? At the end of the day, nobody has to do anything.
That's right.
You're very right. But then it also means that if you don't do that, you will have to do whatever that alternative is in order for you to keep yourself afloat. And my opinion is this. I think that sometimes we get too caught up in the jargon, and we're missing that there are some things that what the scripture that says nothing new has been done under the sun.
That's correct.
Back in the day, it wasn't an email list, because I remember the internet being introduced to me. Mm-hmm. But what it was called was a Rolodex. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At the point is, you had a way of keeping in contact with the people that you had did business with.
Correct.
And so a lot of people now, they don't want to build email lists. But that's when you guys say, get to the money, do the money making activities. I don't have time to make a list. I just put an offer. I don't do a landing page. I don't do this. And people come to me, they pay me, $10,000, $20,000. And I'm like looking at them like, okay, I don't even have time to ask you, how long have you been in business? What kind of, relationships do you have? I'll throw in variables sometimes and say, you guys, you don't know the unique variables of people. Maybe they already worked for a Fortune 500, dollar company. Maybe they were there for 20 years. Maybe they started a business where they already had a pipeline that when they left on good rapport. Maybe they started with a business where they had products and services that were 10 or, 20K. And so they were able to just, have people funnel from where they were to where they are. A lot of these same people they're not sharing their unique variables as to why they do business the way that they do them, and they don't need large lists or whatever. But the average person that's listening to this podcast is a person that had a job, a woman that got fed up, that realized that she was not living on purpose, that went to school, got the degree, worked the job, feels like they didn't love her, they treated her like crap, she needs to do her own thing. And then she's coming out here and warring with this idea of, well, do I need to have a freebie? Do I need to build a list, et cetera, et cetera? I said where I stand. where do you stand with this whole thing with list building? And is it an option? And if it is, when is it?
Okay. That's a very deep and beautiful question. And I would answer it this way. Let's give everyone a sobering moment. Those who are drunk off of all of the bells and whistles, let's give us a sobering moment. And I get asked this question a lot, but let me frame it this way. If Facebook was to go away, if Instagram was to go away, if Twitter was to go away, if the internet even shut down, if the building burned down, if the computer burned down, if you lost everything, how could you start over and be right back where you are right now in the shortest amount of time? It's by having your list. I tell people all the time, if everything burned down, if I didn't have nothing, as long as I got my list, I'll have it all back within a year. If you don't have a list, you can't get it back. So that's the sobering thing you have to understand, that in the moment you think, okay, Facebook is always going to be it. They're already trying to find ways to create. In fact, it's becoming very expensive for the smaller entrepreneurs and business owners to begin to advertise. So once things starts hitting critical mass, those who have the money tend to start taking it over. So right now you're able to do things and here's why people love it, because the barrier of entry is so low. I mean, when you start talking about free, you can't get no lower than that, right? So that's why people don't want to do it. But you have to ask yourself, and I'll just tell you, I print out my email list just in case everything go down. I got a physical copy so that, again, if everything goes wrong, I ain't even got to send them an email. I'll sit down and write a letter and send it to them to say, here's a product or service I have, and here's an order form. $1,000. And I can explain it to them in detail. So having a list is critical. And you just heard me, even having a physical list. And when I say physical, I'm speaking of their home addresses, phone numbers. It's invaluable to you in your business growth and development. Sure, you can have these short spurts right now where you don't need those things. I mean, I know people who make $100,000 and then it's like, well, I don't need all of that. But then they come back to me a year and a half later. So when you alluded to my response when someone says, well, you so old school. That's right. I'm old. I'm around, right? Can't you see? I'm still here. What happened to the new school that came out last year? Where is he at now? Where's she at now? Where's that sister that had that coaching program that you were so excited about, and her only credentials was to get into a $5,000 coaching program so that they could teach her how to create a $5,000 coaching program to teach you how to make a $5,000, but there's no substance there. Those people are gone. In fact, think about it. How many people are you paying to do that? But if you have a list to where you can communicate, and this goes back to what we talked about earlier, how else do you build relationships? Except that you have repetitive communications with them, or you provide value on a continuous basis. I have people, and I'll close on this point, but it's so valuable. I had one woman who was on my list for 10 years. And obviously, I'm just emailing. I'm doing what I do. I don't pay attention. Then all of a sudden, one day, I receive an email. She said, I'd like to talk to you. I'm Dr. Such and Such, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I know what you're about, and I have a budget of $75,000 to implement and grow this stuff that you talk about with notifications, because I'm ready to take all of my practice. I'm ready to take my knowledge and put it in here. I know that I need to learn this and marketing and all of this type of stuff, and I have a budget of $75,000. But she'd been on my list for 10 years, never bought anything. So I want you to understand that one person who was on my list, who is not on Facebook, who has a business and they're working, so they don't have time to be on Twitter all day. They're not watching television, but yet by her taking the time to every Sunday when she has a break, cracking open my emails, to absorbing what I'm sharing with her. So she's studying me. Now she shows up 10 years later and ready to give me $75,000. Now, how many of those type of people do you need to surpass? Now, so now I'm going to be kind of jokingly to the audience. So how many of those do you need to surpass your current income? Right? That's why you need a list, because one solid relationship that is nurtured can really be a whole year worth of income for some of us.
Yeah.
So the list is invaluable to this day. When people talk, and that's when I know that people are not serious business builders, when they tell me that they want to avoid that, but yet they come right back to me 6 months later saying my conversion rates from my Facebook ads are not working. I understand. I mean, what you and I talk about, what's your message? Is your market there? Is it the right media for you, right? Those three things that you and I always talk about: market, message, media. Is it there? Do you know that? And you don't know these things, but when you have a list, you're able to get feedback. You're able to do surveys. You're able to take your time. That's why I'm never in a rush. People say, man, you always so, because I know that all I got to do is send out one email. And as you stated, I get notification of payment received. There's not a time, there's hardly ever a time where I don't send out an email that I have an offer where I don't get a sale. That's why a list is important.
Yeah. So
that you can print money on demand. So that helps.
Whoo, the strong game is the long game. Well, the long game is the strong game. Oh no, I might have to make that the podcast. I don't know. That's not what it's going to be.
No, that's hot. That's hot. I like that.
Okay, I might but consensus. That's it. So
I like
look, man, I could sit here and talk to you all day, but we both have lives, and I want you to enjoy your movie.
Thank you.
Man, thank you. Thank you so much. There was a lot of wisdom. Ladies, I know you got it. Go follow Brother Bedford. I know a lot of my tribe, they already are. As soon as I put something on, I've shared a couple of your posts, periodically I go share some of your stuff. And then I start seeing, I'm like, how they like the post before I got a chance to like the post, because they saw you in the feed, before I do, but I'm always honest. I'm not the marketing guru though. I'm very strong with my message and what I do, I thank you for what I learned with you. And I'm sure that the opportunity is going to bud for us to do some more things, but
absolutely,
let the people that have been inspired and are sitting there saying, hold up, I need what this brother has. Let them know what you have for the listeners so that they can go ahead and get on that list that's so hot that 10 years from now, they will still want to be.
Well, I'm always doing a lot of things. And if you've been around August and myself for any time, you know that that's the purpose. You got a bunch of these assets, things that we're talking about, these assets working for you. But I would only suggest just one thing that I would want you to do. Two things. One, I'll be speaking, and I don't know when this airs.
It will be I think it's the last Friday in April. I can tell you this was right after the summit. So just
great. So if you're in Houston area, you may want to stop by the Power Networking Conference to network and make these personal connections with myself. And again, Damon John is going to be there, George Frazier. And again, I mention these things because of the importance of conferencing and going where important people are. George Frazier, if you don't know who he is, you should look him up. That's Fraser, George Frazier. He made a statement that has stuck with me. It was actually said it in that very first interview that I had with him. He said, Brother Bedford, if you want to meet important people, you have to go where important people are, because they damn sure not coming to you. And so many of you are just a relationship away. When you start talking about, and Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, another one of my mentors, say, study the 5 closest people to you. You will see your future. If you're interacting with 5 broke people, and I don't say broke in a derogatory way, a demeaning way. I'm just saying just 5 people who are not achieving the things that you would like to achieve, living the life that you would like to live, chances are you're the 6, right? You're going to become a part of that environment. So if you want to break out of that, you have to start seeking new friends, better friends, people who inspire you, people who become those who stretch your mind. In fact, I'm embarrassed if your friends don't embarrass you. And what I mean by that, if your ideas don't excite them and vice versa, you should be embarrassed. So I'm embarrassed when I'm around like George now. They're on this whole initiative to create Fraser Nation and have thousands of financial centers all around the country. Those are the type of friends you want to be around when you're like, damn, and I'm scared to put out an ebook. They're getting ready to build multi-million-dollar complexes, and I'm scared to start a podcast, right? So you want friends that make you kind of nervous. Say, damn, I have to level up. I have to measure up. Water seeks its own level. So you want to begin to grow. Does that mean you're going to immediately do that? No, but that's why you got to start. Let them begin to stretch you. So join us at the Power Networking Conference if you get the opportunity. And since we've really been talking about marketing, we talk about notification of payment received and all of those things. But I really think the most important knowledge that any entrepreneur or business owner can have is marketing. In fact, the business that you're truly in is marketing, right? Now, if you cut hair, that's the skill. But if you don't know how to get customers or clients, you just cut hair every now and then. It's only a matter of time before you're out of business. If you cook well, right? If you don't know how to get customers and clients to come and buy what it is that you have, you'll be out of business. There's a lot of talented people, a lot of great products and services. I know people with garages full of products and services, and they wonder, why can't I sell this stuff? Because you've never learned how to market and sell those products and services. So the most important knowledge that an entrepreneur and a business owner can have is learning how to market your business. And so I have a tip sheet that I want you to go get, moneymakingmarketingtips.com, moneymakingmarketingtips.com. You can go there. It's a very short read, but it gives you 8 tips that will force you to start thinking through your business, as you alluded to earlier. And I thank you for that. And that's so profound. And I know you do the same thing with your clients when you're talking to them. The best thing that we can begin to do for budding entrepreneurs or people who are trying to get into business is begin to get them to think through their business. Most of us just have an idea, but we don't think through of what it's going to take, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, what is it going to take, who do I need to get around? That's really the business you're in. How do you do that? How do you think through that? And so these 8 tips kind of help you begin to think through what it is that you need to do with your business and your products and your services. Because if you can't think through it, you just got an idea, right? I got an ink pen. Okay, so how do we sell this thing? Now, how do we make your ink pen different from the gazillion other ink pens that are out there, right? So you got to think through this thing. What makes it different? What is my USP with this pen, right? I mean, maybe I can put August Crenshaw's name on it. Maybe that'll help it. There's something that you have to think through. So you can go to Money Making Marketing Tips to get this short report or this tip sheet, and again, just look at what we're doing, or you can text the number 8 and the word tips all together, 8 tips to a short code 58885. 8 tips to 58885. And just what I just did is a lesson unto itself. So you need to study just the end of this. And if you do this, you'll see the response you get from me. Implement these things in your business. Yeah. If you're doing podcasts or doing it, you should have something that you can share that get people to come to you and become more knowledgeable about who and what you are. And of course, you feed them first by giving them some knowledge, giving them something, giving them a taste of what it is that you have to offer. And then if they like it, they'll want to proceed further. If they don't like it, they're going to go on about their business. So that's the resource that I would share with your audience. 8 tips, just text that 8 tips, the number 8 and the word tips to 58885. Or you can just simply go to moneymakingmarketingtips.com, enter your name and email, and I'll send you that tip sheet. Okay?
There it is. Bravo! All right, ladies, this was good. I'm not going to close out with anything else other than say, go get the opt-in, go get it, check it out, read it, study it, get what you need. I can honestly say I've never seen a level of service with a gentleman that it's unparalleled. And so I honor you for that. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
You're going down in history, ladies. Until the next episode, remember, get out there. Real women don't bitch. We get shit done. Go work.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. Remember to cultivate a mindset that is biased towards taking action. No bitching, whining, or complaining. Here, our mantra is, real women don't bitch. We get shit done. See you next week as I continue to bring you what you need to keep your head in the game and beast your business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Would you like a specific topic covered? Have a question you would like answered live? Then head on over to realwomendon'tbitchpodcast.com. Subscribe to my email list, hit me up, and I got you. Interested in being a guest speaker? You walk the walk? Then you can sign up on the website too. This is your #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs, Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless, signing out. Deuces!
Inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher. Unlock the fire in